There is this incredibly common, yet honestly just super damaging misconception out there. It's this idea that a learning disability means a child somehow lacks intelligence. And wow, that couldn't be further from the truth. Today, we are going behind the scenes in this explainer to uncover what's really happening in the minds of these learners. We're going to look at how we can actually bridge the gap between their true cognitive potential and what they're showing in the classroom.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll be defining learning disabilities. Second, spotting the characteristics. Third, the 3 root causes. Fourth, identifying LDs. And finally, strategies for educational success. Let's jump right into section 1, defining learning disabilities, bridging the gap.
Okay, so the formal definition points to a, quote, mixed group of disorders manifested by significant difficulties in the acquisition and use of listening, speaking, writing, reasoning, or mathematical abilities. Now, the absolute key phrase to hang on to here is mixed group, right? This isn't just one blanket issue that breaks everything. It's a very specific set of skill disorders that affects how information is acquired and processed. Basically, it is decidedly not a general lack of intelligence.
And that brings us to what I think is a super frustrating core conflict, the stark contrast between expected cognitive ability and actual academic achievement. Think about it. You have a learner who is totally capable. Their general cognitive level tells us they should be absolutely thriving, yet their actual reading, writing, or math achievement falls significantly short. They're underachieving, but definitely not by choice. It's because there's a hidden barrier literally blocking their natural potential. So, how do we see this playing out? Let's move to section 2, spotting the characteristics beyond the classroom.
Look, on the surface, a parent or a teacher might just look at a kid and see inattention, or maybe a lack of motivation. A child might consistently lag behind their peers in picking up new info or problem solving. But if we approach this with some deep empathy, we realize this isn't laziness, not at all. Their brain is just processing information at a completely different rate. That creates a very real deficiency in mastering tasks that, other kids might find effortless. And honestly, that is an incredibly difficult thing for a child to navigate day in and day out.
And man, this daily struggle takes a huge hidden toll. Just listen to what the research notes. Most of the LD children experience emotional problems, show signs of anxiety, moodiness, and emotional fluctuations. I mean, just imagine the profound frustration of being a really smart, capable kid, but constantly hitting a brick wall every time you try to prove it. So that anxiety and moodiness, they aren't just like secondary behavioral issues. They are the direct emotional fallout of a fundamentally misunderstood academic reality.
Plus, these disabilities don't just stay on paper. Kids might show signs of hyperactivity, impulsivity, or even neuromuscular coordination disorders. They can face irregularities in how they remember, how they think, and how they perceive things. We really have to grasp this full, multifaceted reality. It's not just a reading or math problem. It's a whole-body, holistic experience that actively changes how they move, how they remember, and how they interact with the entire world.
Okay, section 3, the 3 root causes, nature, nurture, and neurology.
So why does this happen? We can basically trace the causes back to 3 main pillars: genetic, physiological, and environmental. Genetically, research shows a lot of these characteristics are actually transmitted from generation to generation, so heredity plays a big part. Physiologically, we're talking about central nervous system dysfunction. This could be from brain damage, a lack of oxygen at birth, maternal drug use during pregnancy, or even a severe vitamin deficiency while the kid is growing. And finally, the environmental pillar. This covers external impacts. Things like premature delivery, early malnutrition, a lack of early sensory stimulation, or broad social and cultural deprivation. The massive takeaway here, learning disabilities stem from deep biological or environmental factors that are 100% outside of a child's control.
Which leads us to section 4, how to identify LDs, pinpointing the challenge.
So how do we actually pinpoint what's going on? Well, identification happens in 2 distinct ways: testing devices and non-testing devices. Testing devices are exactly what they sound like: standardized diagnostic, achievement, ability, and teacher-made tests. These are highly quantitative. They measure the exact specific extent of the difficulty a kid is having when processing certain learning material. On the flip side, we have non-testing devices. These rely on qualitative, human insight. We're talking observation, rating scales, checklists, and interviews. These evaluate the child holistically, looking at their general personality and particular behavioral quirks. Honestly, you absolutely need both. You need the hard data of testing and the nuanced observation of non-testing to get the full, accurate picture of the learner.
All right, let's talk solutions. Section 5, Strategies for Educational Success, Empowering the Learner. The groundwork for real success often starts with broad structural provisions, right? This might mean giving a child access to special schools or tailored classes that are designed specifically to help them perform better. It means deploying special remedial educational programs right inside the existing curriculum. But maybe most importantly, it means actively structuring and improving the child's environment. If a learning disability is being made worse by negative factors in their physical, social, or cultural environment, we literally must restructure that setup. We have to remove those barriers to lay the essential groundwork for their success. And once that foundation is there, we can build into specialized, targeted approaches. For example, contrast the behavioral approach, which is all about consciously modifying the child's environment and reinforcing good learning behaviors, with the psychoanalytic approach. That one digs deep to analyze and solve underlying unconscious root causes. Then, you've got the individualized approach, which gives specific assistance so the child can progress entirely at their own rate, helping them feel safe and secure. Or, similarly, the self-instructional approach. This empowers the learner to navigate material at their own pace using tools like programmed instruction, teaching machines, or recordings. Now, one particularly brilliant strategy is the multisensory approach. And if you think about it logically, it makes perfect sense. If a child has a neurological roadblock when processing visual text, why on earth would we keep forcing them to only read? This approach introduces learning material through multiple senses all at once: visual, auditory, touch, smell, and yes, literally even taste, depending on what's being taught. Engaging all 5 senses is just an incredibly dynamic way to bypass those traditional roadblocks. It's like building brand new, alternative cognitive pathways in the brain, making learning visceral, memorable, and highly accessible. And that actually leads us to a final thought regarding the technological approach. When you look at how far we've come with computer-assisted learning and modern assistive devices, the future is incredibly bright. So I'm going to leave you with this. With rapidly advancing technology, how many more learning barriers can we break down in the years to come? The potential to unlock every single child's true cognitive ability is greater now than ever before. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, stay curious.